Hey guys, Tyler Vanderhoeven here again. In this video, we're going to sort of follow up on the last one about why this Postgres to GraphQL stellar tool exists. Today, we're going to get this going on our own servers. So you can have access to this sort of tool set of, like if I were to go to my core test, GraphQL, if I were to go to API, it opens up the Horizon instance, and then I've also got access to that core. So the core database, the Horizon database, oh my goodness. There we go. And the sort of standard Horizon API that Stellar comes with. So we're going to get those running on our own, a new droplet. So this would be the system you would follow if you wanted to get this all going on your own system. So I'm actually going to be following my own instructions just to make sure that I get everything right. Essentially, what we'll do first is just creating a droplet. I use Ubuntu. Anything that can run Docker, though, you should be able to run a similar system. I don't know exactly what's going to change. I've only ever really used Ubuntu. So pick that one. I'm going to go with this 2.2. I think I know that you need pretty much, like, can't go much lower than this. So whatever system you're using, you're going to need something comparable to this, at least 2 gigs of memory and this 2 CPUs. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on what CPUs, but you just have to kind of play with it. Hopefully, you'll have some sort of monitoring in front where you can see how your service is performing over time. If we were to go just real quick to the droplet that I'm running, my current, those API endpoints that I showed you before, this is kind of the way the stats look for the system. You can see my RAM gets up there pretty high. The bandwidth pretty active. We're getting a little bit close to that 100% line, so we'll just need to keep an eye on memory. Who knows, that may cross in the next week or so, and I'll need to bump up my memory. But for now, the 2.2 seems to work okay. So I'll go ahead and create that. I'm in Knoxville, so that New York 3 is my closest one. I'm going to make sure I have monitoring turned on and a SSH key that I'll include there. The rest of this all looks good. I'm just going to put a temp, and we'll go ahead and create that. While that's going, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new terminal window here, and then we'll change it to whatever this new droplet is. We'll SSH into that. Yes, please. There we go. Root access. Now you may want to, create a new user and remove the root user, but for our examples here today, we'll just keep it as it is. All right. So now we've got the SSH figured out. We're inside. Let's make sure we've got get installed. We do, so we're good there. Next, we need to add Docker. And there's a Docker article for getting Docker installed on Ubuntu. So I'm just going to copy the commands because I don't actually know. Like that one says okay, so I don't even know if I really need to run that or if it's more just like a check. Same thing with that. Not really sure if that just sort of gets things ready to go or something. Apt-get update. So we're just going to get everything sort of up to its current version, which we just created in droplets, so it should be good. This one I think, again, probably just a check, but I don't really know because I'm a dummy. That one I think actually installs Docker, so we'll kind of just let that one run for a minute. All right, so that's done. Now this one I know is just a check, but just to make sure we have Docker actively running, so we're good there. Control C to close that shell there. So now we got that. Now we need Docker Compose because Docker Compose does not ship with Docker, so we need an extra command for that one, and that's this curl command, which you can get from the actual Docker installation documentation online. Then we need to make the executable so we can actually use Docker dash compose. So that just basically gives us access to that folder that it's in, and then if we run Docker compose version, we should get a version number back. If we don't, we can just kill the shell, jump back in, and hopefully it picks that gmod up. Now I want to make sure we are in the squiggle directory. That's what I call it. the root directory. Whenever you open up the shell, at least in Ubuntu, that's where it goes. But I'm just gonna, who knows what you did, so we'll go back there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just right in here in the root directory, I don't think we actually have anything else in here. I'm just gonna git clone my glitch docker, which is the folder that has the actual Docker Compose file in it. If we were now to cd into that directory and list it out, you'll see that we have the Docker Compose YAML file, which has all the information of actually running the Stellar Core Horizon Docker, as well as my GraphQL endpoint Docker image that will connect those two together to give you the endpoints so you can access the databases from GraphQL. And to be able to actually get that working, we need to nano into the example env file and change these passwords. So these will be the passwords of the PostgreSQL database that Stellar is going to make, which we need access to in the PostgreSQL image, so that we can actually connect to whatever Stellar creates. So I'm just going to make things easy on myself right now. Probably want these to be a little more complicated, but that's obviously up to you. If you get hacked, don't come crying to me. So we'll save that, and then we need to actually move it or rename it from example to just straight env. So there we go with that. And at this point, so long as ls-a, since there's a dot file, so long as everything's set up, which it looks perfect, we should be ready to just run the Docker Compose up with the detach tag. So if we ran it as just that, it would run in our shell, and then when we quit our shell, it would close down all of our services. So we need to actually run this in a detached mode to ensure that when we close our shell, all of these services continue to run. So we'll just let this go. This will take about a minute or so to download all of the assets and images that we need to run all of these elements. And once that finishes, all of those images are going to start popping up. You can see it go, and then it drops us out because of the detach tag. So it's a little hard to say, like, hey, is everything worked or not? Well, we can just run that docker ps-a to ensure that all of our images actually fired up. So we should get this up status on all of those, and we do, so that's all golden. So assuming that we are in fact golden, we should be able to go to our droplet, and if we go to this PS, you can see all of the ports that these are opened at. So 5441, 51, and then these also have ports that are open, this 3000 and 3001. So these would be the Horizon ones, since this is connected to that Stellar. So if we were to go to port 3000, we should have access to, this would be the core Horizon, the public, or I'm sorry, the live net, so the public global Stellar network. If we were to go to 3001, this would be the test SDF network. So good, that's all working fine. Let's test 4000 GraphQL. So this should be our core, or sorry, our live network for the, I think it's 4000 is our post, oh shoot, these little line breaks are hard to follow. I think this is our Horizon. If you were able to stretch this out a little further, you'd actually know, but we can actually look real quick if we look in our docs and our query. Looks like this is our cores, because if we go to 5000, this would be the Horizon, which should have a bunch of history related history endpoints. Let's go ahead and test this real quick for the test net. Looks like that one's up, and 4000, that one's up. So all of our endpoints are up. We've got it running. There's obviously, you probably don't want to be exposing your IP address along with your port numbers. You want to actually get this to domain names, but that's a different video. I'll probably go ahead and post one of those two just real quick for the system that I use for actually getting things pointed over to things like API-test and having access to those endpoints and ports. I'm going to assume if you have background or back-end experience that you probably already know how to do that, but if you don't, I'll go ahead and get a tutorial up real quick. But that's more or less, that's it. Very simple, not nearly as hard as I bet you were thinking it was going to be. Pretty awesome. Just real quick, if we were to, remember if this is my, I want to look at my core. Yeah, just real quick, just a really simple endpoint here. Let's get the first 10 nodes with the account ID and balance. You'll notice that shoot, what's it called? Total count. Putting it in the wrong one. Let's go ahead and put that on the top. This account number is probably a little bit lower than it would be somewhere else because it takes a little while to synchronize all of the data to your own nodes that you just created. So it could take a little while to have all the data ported over. For some reason, it's especially true on these test nets. If we were to go to the 4000, seems, I don't know, for whatever reason, seems to be a little bit quicker. But just give it like a few hours to synchronize everything. Sometimes, I mean, it's taking as long as a whole day to get things moved over if they're having bugs or issues or just a really heavy load across the network. So be patient, but soon enough, I mean, you can already see we've got almost 100,000 accounts in the live net, so it's running just fine.